Good morning, everyone. Welcome to lecture 10 of Grid and Cloud Computing. So, in this lecture, we'll discuss about three cloud service provider. One is your Amazon Web Service, that is called as your AWS, Amazon Web Service, AWS. Another second one is we'll discuss about Google App Engine. We call it GAE. Third one is provided by Microsoft, that we call it by Microsoft Azure, right? So these three are three cloud service provider. There is Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. We'll discuss what kind of cloud they are providing, and what kind of services they are providing, and what kind of application you can deploy in Amazon Web Service or Google App Engine or Microsoft Azure, right? So in your leisure time, you can create one account in AWS or in GAE or in Microsoft, right? You create just like you are creating one account in WhatsApp or Facebook or Gmail, right? Similarly, you can create one account in AWS, right? Especially you visit Amazon EC2, right? A website, you go for Amazon EC2, you search in Google Amazon EC2, right? And to create one account, right? And see what are the internal functionality available inside the Amazon EC2, so that you will get a little bit idea about the Amazon cloud, right? So you will see various types of in Amazon EC2, various types of EC2 instances are available, right? One instance may be a you can say large instance, okay? Another may be a X large instance, okay? Another may be a small instance, right? So it is the name is suggested as a large or X large or small instance based upon the size of the virtual machine, right? If the virtual machine size is big, then we can call it a extra large instance, something like that. If the virtual machine size is small, then we call it a small one, right? Small EC2 instances. Similarly, you can create GAE account also or Microsoft Azure account to use the cloud service provider. Initially, they are giving just like trial version, right? Whenever we are installing a particular software, we are getting trial version for 30 days, right? Similarly, here also you will get some first month or 1 year free of service. After that, they will charge for this, right? So whether you are using AWS or GAE or Microsoft, there are two ends. What user can do, user or customer can do, right? What provider can provide, right? As a cloud service provider, what Amazon, Google, or Microsoft can provide, right? And as a user, what work you can do, that is very much important, right? And you should know what part you can do, what part provider cannot do, right? What part provider can do, that part you should not do, right? That type of similarities you have to find, right? For example, if you go for Amazon Web Service, you will get extremely flexibility. What do you mean by extreme flexibility? Based upon your choice, you can select a virtual machine. For example, I want to deploy a particular application. For that, I have selected a large EC2 instances, right? So it is given, the AWS is giving flexibility to the user to select one of the virtual machine, right? To execute their application. But the same thing may not be provided by other cloud service provider, right? It means once you go for one cloud service provider, what kind of services that cloud service provide, that kind of services may not provided by other cloud service provider, right? Like in day-to-day life also, we are going to various shop, right, to purchase various things. So you know that with respect to various shops, the offers are different, the price is different, the flexibility is also different. For example, if you go for GAE, right, Google App Engine, you will get a limited application level virtualization. All the facilities will not be given to the user, right? For example, you are using day by day, you are using various services of Google, like we are using Gmail, right? Or we are using Google Docs, okay? Google PowerPoint also we are using, right? Or you are using Google Drive, right? Google Sheet we are using, Google Quizzes we are doing. So these services, whatever created by Google, that user can easily use, okay? But user in its own side, it has limited in application level virtualization. User may not get much flexibility like AWS, right? Similarly, if you go for Microsoft, Microsoft is providing program level virtualization. So it uses .NET Framework, right? That .NET Framework, you know, there is a programming language. So that programming language is supported by Microsoft. So using that framework, right, user can do program level virtualizations. So what you can see here, the only difference you can see here, that with respect to the cloud service provider, the flexibility is different. Okay, the services are different. What kind of work they can do, that is also different, right? That I want to convince you with this particular slide. Now, if you see the power consumption perspective also, power consumption is also how they are taking care each and every cloud service provider, how they are handling power consumption, that is also different, right? So for example, if you see in an overall scenario, without going to Amazon or Microsoft or Google, if you see IT power consumption in United States, if you say USA, whatever energy is consumed or whatever power is consumed, 3% of total energy is consumed in the country by the IT resources or ICT resources, right? Like if you see in your home, you are having a air condition, you are having a refrigerator, you are charging your mobile, right? And you are doing a lot of work. So if I'll ask you that if the total consumption is 100%, how much, what is the percentage of power consumed by your handheld devices like mobile phone, laptop, or you can say if you are using smartwatch or you are using Geofy kind of things, right? So these are the ICT resources, right? These information communication technology resources. So how many percent you will give, okay, to these devices are consuming from the out of 100%. Similarly, if you see in the United States, 3% is consumed, power is consumed due to IT devices, right? In our home also, if you see, 10 to 20% of energy is wasted for our mobile devices, because every day we are charging our mobile, right? Every day we are charging our laptop, maybe twice in a day, right? So if you go for IDC survey, IDC is a very reputed organization. Gartner is another reputed organization. I discussed this early classes, right? So these are multinational research and development firms. So they are saying if people will adopt this virtualization technology, that is what cloud is providing, if you see the cost reduction will be very high, right? It means the cost will be reduced to a greater extent, right? If cost is reduced because the power required to run these resources are also reduced, right? Because you know that in virtualization, multiple people can use the same physical resources. That advantages you are going to get. So now, if you see how you do it, if you want to see how virtualization really affect the infrastructure as a service cloud, IaaS, or it may be platform as a service, or it may be software as a service. The first one says that system administrator consolidate workload of underutilized server in fewer server. For example, as a cloud service provider, you have 100 server, right? And you found that out of these 100 servers, 10 servers are idle. Idle means they are not doing any work. 90 servers are doing maximum work, right? 90 servers are doing a lot of work, but 10 servers are completely idle. So it may happen that you can see the possibility that if these 10 servers load, if you can give to these 90 servers, right, whatever load, if there is no load, in ideal state there is no load, but whatever the load you are going to assign to these 10 server, if that load you can assign to these 90 server, and after that also you can run the system smoothly, then I can switch off this 10 server. So if you are switch off this server, then power consumption will be reduced, right? Ultimately, the cost will also reduce. So that is the first possibility. So the resources which is underutilized, if you are not using that resource, so it should be migrated to the server which is on, switch on, right? So that we will put this server in the switch off mode. That is the first thing. Second one is somebody, we are by the using virtualization concept, what we are doing, same hardware is used by multiple people, right? Multiple people are using same hardware. So they may run different code also, right? They are using different hardware. On top of the hardware, they can run any kind of application. So you have to make ensure that their code is not interfering with each other. Means these users' codes are not interfering with each other, right? As they are using the same physical hardware, you have to ensure this thing that it should not be overlapped with each other, right? This is in this way you can do reduce the power and reduce the cost as well. Now, then you have to ensure that if somebody is using the virtualization concept and they are creating the virtual machine, it really improves the security policies, right? You have to ensure that, right? Because multiple users are using same hardware, right? So there should not be any conflict and there should not be any compromise in the security as well. For this, what you can use sandboxes, right? So sandbox is separating the running program. Suppose you are running one program, I am running another program, but both of us are using same hardware, right? So sandbox ensures you that we are separating the running programs, right? That is one of the advantages for running application with questionable reliability, right? So we can solve the whatever question you are arising, right, due to interference between two different users or the with respect to the reliability that can be solved, right? Another one is you can see the virtualized cloud platforms can apply performance isolations. Okay, you can isolate one user with another user, right? Although multiple users are using the same hardware, but they are not aware that this hardware is shared by multiple people. That is called as your performance isolation. You are isolating yourself with others, right? And you have to see that irrespective of the number of users for a particular hardware, you should achieve better quality of service, right? Quality of service should not be compromised at any cost because quality of service is an important parameter of cloud computing. Without quality of service, customer will never satisfy with the cloud services, right? Now, so virtualization also do a very important part. For example, one physical machine, for example, you have created, let me draw one physical machine here. Let it be one physical machine, right? There is another physical machine, right? Physical machine 2. So while executing something, let's say physical one, machine 1 is crashed. Like you know that in computer also, whenever you are doing some work also, your computer system is crashed. It is showing a blue screen error and let's say something is damaged. Okay, your data is everything is deleted from that computer system. So in cloud term, you have to ensure that whatever data available in the physical machine, it should be backed up by another physical machine. That is saying recover one physical machine by another physical machine. If PM1 physical machine is destroyed, then you can use the physical machine to retrieve your data, right? The process may be slow, okay? The process may be slow, it may be complex, it may be expensive, whatever may be, but data should not be lost at any cost, right? Any data, your emails, whatever you have, it should not be deleted at any cost. That is the important thing. Similarly, here you are recovering one physical machine with another physical machine. Here I am doing one virtual machine with another virtual machine, right? How you can do recover one virtual machine with another virtual machine? For example, one virtual machine you are running in this physical machine. That means that virtual machine is taking resources of the physical machines. If this physical machine is destroyed, so I have to ensure that whatever work is there in this particular virtual machine, it should be resumed in another physical machine. So it enables one concept that is called a checkpointing. So checkpointing says that if something is crashed, so you can go to the last checkpoint. Whatever data is there in the last checkpoint, that data you will run in another physical machine. Just like you are taking backup in your computer system, right? So that this disaster recovery, if something is failed, so it should be faster by doing DM encapsulation. You are encapsulating one with another one, right? And clone the virtual machine. You are copying the virtual machine. The same virtual machine may have a backup in another physical machine. So if a virtual machine will be destroyed, another the same copy of the virtual machine is available in another physical machine, so that the data should not be deleted or data should not be lost at any cost, right? So you can do also live migration. Live migration means Suppose I want to see that, for example, physical machine 1 is now running one virtual machine, right? One virtual machine. But physical machine 2 is having multiple virtual machine. So what I am thinking, if I migrate this virtual machine to physical machine 2, then I can switch off the physical machine 1. So this process you can do online at any point of time. That is called the live migration. So there are 6 open challenges with respect to the architectural design of cloud computing. First one is called a service availability. Service availability says that service should be available 24/7, right? For example, in order to make the service not available, I'm not saying available, not available, what we have to do? The attackers are trying that the cloud service provider should not give services 24/7. So what they are doing? They are launching different kind of attack. One of the very popular attack is called as distribute denial of service, right? So you will apply the DOS, that is denial of service, at various places, means various computers, right? So that 24/7 cannot be provided. Another challenge is your data lock-in problem. Data lock-in problem means you are habituated with, let's say, Big Bazaar, right? For example, shopping, you are usually refer Big Bazaar. So after some time, what happens, in each and every time you will refer Big Bazaar only, even if other providers are giving good offer, good quality of product, you will never go to that service provider. The same thing happen in the cloud computing also. People are habituated with one cloud, so they are reluctant to move from one cloud to another cloud. So that is called your lock-in problem. So that you have to avoid, right? You should not be dependent on a single cloud, right? If one service is better today, you subscribe that cloud. It is not better today, you go for another cloud, right? So that is one of the challenges. Second challenge is related to the privacy and security, right? So while a user A want to communicate with another user B, so in between user A and user B, there is a attacker. What that attacker will do, it will receive the data from sender, okay? It will manipulate the data, will send to the receiver. When the receiver will communicate with the sender, so it is again capturing the data and manipulating it, sent to the sender. So this attacker is now called as man in the middle attack. Between two communication, this person is a third person who is interfering and manipulating the data. So that is also another challenge. Third is, if you are using multiple virtual machines, right, on top of the these virtual machines are using same hardware, so they are sharing the same CPUs, same main memory, okay, and same other things. But what about input and output? Okay, you can share your CPU, you can share your main memory, but while it is coming for input output devices like printer, or you can say keyboard, right, or anything you want to ask to user, so there will be a question mark how you will parallelize, okay, how you can do multiple IO operation at the same time. So it is a challenge. The next one is distributed storage. As you know that if data is present in multiple places, so you have to ensure that data should be consistent, right? Okay, if you are storing multiple copies, like in final year, you are going to perform you are going to implement a project. So while preparing the project, if two people are present in the same project group, so they have to ensure that whatever file they are editing, that file is a latest one, right? Similarly, in cloud case, as we are relying on the distributed storage, as the data is not present in a single place, so you have to ensure that data should be consistent, right? And if there is a software bug is coming, you are able to fix that particular bug, right? That is a challenge. So coming back to the scalability, one of the important characteristics of cloud computing, interoperability, standardization. So you know we are using pay-as-you-go model. Suppose I am using 2 hours, so I am going to pay for 2 hours. Okay. Or you know that now mobile service providers are also, they are taking some amount and services is free for 30 days. So that is called a subscription based. Up to 30 days, irrespective of your usage, the service is free, right? So that is the first thing. Second one is, as per your requirement, suppose you are using 2 hours, some bill will come. If you are using 4 hours, then a little bit more bill will come, right? So based upon your usage, you are going to pay for the particular service, right? Like if you go for Amazon Web Service is charging in hour basis, right? Suppose you are using 3 hour 5 minute, okay, then it will charge you for 4 hours, right? Like that you can do. So as virtualization, okay, is an important role. So virtualization having one format that is called as open virtualization format, that is called as OVF, open virtualization format. Why this format is used? This format is used to open, secure, portable, efficient and extensible format for packaging and distribution of the virtual machine. So while you are creating the virtual machine, there should be a specific format, right? So that it can be moved from one physical machine to another physical machine, or one virtual machine can move from one virtual machine to another virtual machine. Okay, and that virtual machine may be deployed in another physical machine in case of required. So that we discussed, that is called as your live migration can be done, right? The last one is called a software licensing, right? Suppose you have subscribed a particular software, and that particular software is you are giving, for example, antivirus software, you know that is for 1 year or 2 years, right? After 1 year, 2 year, you are going to subscribe again. But whatever software you are using in the cloud, so you need not bother about the licensing or reputation of selling, right? So it is the responsibility of the cloud service provider to perform that particular role, right? So now coming to the three cloud service providers, as I mentioned, one is called Google App Engine, AWS, and Azure. First, I will discuss Google App Engine, then AWS, then Azure. That is Microsoft Azure, right? So if you see the total number of layers is used by these cloud platforms, there are 5 layers. Already we discussed these 5 layers. So you know, one is called as your infrastructure as a service. Next one is platform as a service. Last one is software as a service. On top of all the service, what we have? We have user, right? Or you can say we have broker. And how broker is accessing these services, either SaaS or PaaS or IaaS, through a web browser. I mentioned web browser, right? That is Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox or Internet Explorer, Opera, whatever browser you know. By the help of that browser, you can get 3 types of services. One is software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. And in the ground term, okay, in the bottom layer, what you have? You have data center. What data center contain? Data center contain various servers, right? What that server contain? Each server you can create multiple virtual machines. So everything, the hardware related and software things are there in the bottom layer, right? Another thing we have already discussed, that is called as middleware, right? One middleware is there in order to abstract the complete environment. So these particular layers are there irrespective of the different cloud platforms. So this is a very important slide. So here I am comparing 5 different cloud service provider, right? Like IBM is providing cloud, Amazon is providing cloud, Google is providing cloud, Microsoft is providing cloud, Salesforce is also providing cloud. But all the clouds are not providing same service, right? Like you, whenever you go to Big Bazaar, all the items may not be available in Big Bazaar, right? Some items may be there in the DMart, some items may be there in the Reliance Express or something like that, right? So if you see, if you go for platform as a service, who is providing platform as a service? IBM is providing, Google is providing, Microsoft is providing, Salesforce is providing. So they are providing platform as a service, right? And platform as a service also, there are various functionalities are there, right? That functionalities may not be provided by all cloud service provider. So you have to select appropriate cloud service provider for your organization. So whenever you will go join a particular company, suppose you will be the manager to decide, right? Who is, or you are the chief technical officer, CTO, to choose a particular cloud service provider. So you have to compare one platform with another platform. Similarly, if you compare infrastructure as a service, IaaS is provided by IBM, Amazon, as well as Microsoft, right? Others are not providing, right? Similarly, you can compare different types of services provided by this cloud platform. Then based upon your requirement, for example, for me, user interface is very much important, right? So I'll see who is giving better user interface. For someone, virtualization is important, right? Then you will think about virtualization, right? For some organization, programming is important. My employee, right? Our organization employee may not be comfortable in all the languages, right? In a particular organization or a company, the people are not comfortable in all the programming languages, right? So what they will do, so they will find where they have little bit of knowledge of programming skill, they can subscribe to that particular cloud service provider, right? So now you know that Google has a lot of data center. So the old data that is saying Google having hundreds of data center, which is having 4,60,000 servers, greater than 4,60,000 servers. It is old data, but if you get the latest data, then you will know that the Google is having so many data centers, right? So Google also says that 200 Google data centers are used at one time, because few data centers are there for the backup services. Backup services, because if something is failed, then the backup will come into picture, right? So Google is providing GAE, that is Google App Engine. So it was launched in the year of 2008 as a platform, as a service to provide scalable and elastic web application to the customers, right? So customer can deploy any web applications, and there is a scalability elasticity concept is there as in the cloud computing. So you can increase the your number of servers or number of users, okay, based upon your requirement. You can increase and decrease your things, right? So GAE is having four different parts. One is called as Google File System, that is called as GFS. So Google File System is nothing but, why it is used? It is used to store massive amount of data. If you have very big data, right, some petabyte, some zettabyte, some yottabyte of data. So if you are subscribing GAE, Google App Engine, so Google File System is there inside the GAE to solve your problem, right? But if you want application program development, right, so you can subscribe MapReduce, that is available in GAE. Similarly, Chubby is used to distributed application log services, that is also there inside GAE. And Bigtable is there to for the indexing purpose, right? Storage services for accessing the structured data. For example, you know that Microsoft Excel, right? Microsoft Excel, if you click in a particular box, it is pointing to a particular row and particular column. So that data, whatever you are storing in Microsoft Excel, is called as your structured data, right? So that data is taken care by GAE by the help of Bigtable. So this is the complete picture. User is accessing this GAE platform. That GAE platform is having your MapReduce, Bigtable, and let's say Chong server, and scheduler, this Chubby, and Google File System, everything, right? Their responsibility is different, right? Based upon the user requirement, these things will come into picture. So this is the overall picture of our Google Apps Engine. So there are 5 functionalities. This Google App Engine provides 5 functionalities. First one is data store, right? What kind of data you can store? You know that nowadays people are storing data in object-oriented fashion. So Google App Engine is providing object-oriented data storage. And obviously the data is stored in a distributed fashion, not in a single place. And structured data we are storing by the help of Bigtable. As I mentioned, Bigtable, Chubby, and GFS, okay, and other services are provided by GAE in order to support some functionality, right? Another functional module is called as your application runtime environment. So you can use the Python language or the Java language, right, in order to create a particular application, right? And in order to facilitate local application development, we are using SDK. So you may have subject Java. So you know that is something called SDK, that is called Software Development Kit, which is used to deploy local application, right? And everything should be managed by an administration module, right? Because who is using the resources, how much time it is using the resources, right? What kind of services it has subscribed. For that, we have administration console, right? So administration console is there to easily managing every task, right? And the last module we have that is called as Google App Engine Web Service Infrastructure. So it provides flexibility to use and management of storage and network resources. So whatever resources Google App Engine has, that can be easily managed by the help of this particular module, right? So now one of the applications we are using in day-to-day life, that is called as your Gmail, right? You know that Gmail is providing 15 GB, right? So whenever you want to use GAE services, irrespective of Gmail, okay, any other services you are using, so up to free quota, it is completely free, right? Like up to 15 GB, Gmail is free. But once you have filled 15 GB in your Gmail, or your Google Docs, right? So once quota is exceeded, you have to pay, right? Suppose I want to use 16 GB, so for 1 GB I have to pay to Google, right? So what you have to do, once the quota is exceeded, so I have to download the SDK, okay, read the Python and Java guide, right? And I can deploy my application on top of the cloud infrastructure so that I can use the cloud service provider, right? Cloud services. So these are the services you are using day to day. Every day we are using Google Search, right, to search something. We are using Google Docs to store the data, right? Sorry, Google Drive and Google Docs to write something, right? Google Earth we are using, right? Google Map we are using, Gmail we are using. These are the various applications are there, okay? So that user can use these applications using Google App Engine, right? So web applications built on GAE, Google App Engine, can use the application programmable interface, authenticating users and sending email using the Google account. By creating a single account, you can use multiple services at the same time, right? By using a single username and password, you can use the Google App Engine and you can use the various services provided by Google App Engine. The second public cloud platform is called as your AWS. So I request you to create a AWS EC2 account and see what is there inside the EC2. Don't go through any complexity. Simply create an account and see all the functionality because it is completely free, right? So if you are using the virtual machine, AWS is providing everything is a virtual machine. Generally they call it by instances. That instance they are called it by EC2 instances, Elastic Compute Cloud instances. So AWS provide two things in order to give the services in a flexible and safely manner. First one is called as your EC2, that is Amazon EC2. Second one is called as S3, that is Amazon Simple Storage Service Cloud. Right, these two are there. So this storage also they are using object-oriented concept, right? As we have discussed in the Google App Engine also uses object-oriented things, right? Apart from this particular platform, right, is having a EBS. EBS stands for your Elastic Block Service. So it is used for block storage, okay, interface to support traditional application. If you want to run a traditional applications, you can use EBS. So EBS will provide you to deploy that application, right? Another module used in the AWS that is called as your SQS. SQS is called simple queue service. Whenever one process want to communicate with another process, suppose you want to communicate with your friend, so you have to ensure that whatever communication you are using, that communication is a reliable communication. For that, SQS is coming into picture. So let us see its architecture. Whatever we discussed, EBS is there, right? For traditional applications, everything is treated as a EC2 instances, right? And you have a SQS, right? To secure the services between two different processes, right? And here also they have a database that is called a simple database. Like you know that in database we are using structured query language, right? So similarly, by the help of structured query language, you are writing query to access some data. So here they are using simple database, right? And so that the developer can access the things based upon the requirement of the user. So there are many offerings are given by AWS, like Google App Engine also providing Google Gmail, Google Docs, Google Drive. Many services are provided. Here also AWS is providing various things, like AWS is providing computation by the help of your EC2. Amazon EC2 is there for giving computational resources. If you want messaging, that will be given by SQS, that is simple queue services. If you want storage, so you can use Amazon S3. Similarly, if you want content delivery, you can use CloudFront. If you want to monitor, you can use CloudWatch. So based upon your service, what kind of service you require for your organization, you can subscribe various things, various modules provided by Amazon Web Services. So this ELB, there is a elastic load balancing here. Why load balance is required? Because if somebody is giving more load to you, right? For example, today 1,000 people is visiting to your website. Tomorrow 1 lakh people will visit to your website. So the load of 1,000 people and 1 lakh people is not same, right? So what we are doing, we are introducing a concept that is called elastic load balancing. So what ELB will do? So based upon the number of users accessing a particular application or a website, it will increase the number of servers in the background, right? So ELB automatically distributes the incoming application traffic across multiple Amazon EC2 instances. It also increases and decreases the number of servers based upon the requirement, right? So both auto scaling and ELB are enabled by the CloudWatch. So for monitoring, we are using CloudWatch, right? So for CloudWatch can monitor these things. So whenever the load will exceed, so it can apply the concept of auto scaling to increase the number of servers, right? Similarly, CloudWatch can be used to monitor the, yes, CloudWatch is used for the monitoring the service. Apart from this service, CloudWatch also monitor the resource utilization. Which resource is used 90%, which resource is used for 80%, which resource is overloaded, which resource is underloaded. So similarly, in your computer also, you can press Control Alt Delete. You can go for Task Manager and you can go to Performance. In the performance, you can see how much memory and how much resources you are using. If the resource usage is more, then you can create multiple servers, right? Similarly, they are monitoring everything and doing their work, right? Similarly, other functionality include operational performance, overall demand patterns like CPU utilization, disk read, write, network traffic. Everything is managed by AWS feature. One feature is that feature is called as a CloudWatch. This module is doing everything for Amazon Web Service. So Amazon offers also one type of database service that is called as RDS, right? That is called Relational Database Service. Like you know that like to store any, so the data we are using MSSS, Microsoft SS, right? So you can use Amazon Web Service import and export option to load the data or to unload the data, right? If you want to process some data, so you can keep the data in the AWS. Once the data is processed, then you can remove also the data, right? For that, we are using AWS import export. Similarly, we are using Amazon CloudFront, which implement the content distribution network. For example, lot of people are visiting google.com, right? So all google.com requests will not go to Google server. So Google has deployed some local servers as well. From the local servers, the local server is having the instances of the main server, which is going to provide the services for Google. That is called as content distribution network. So Amazon also provide another type of functionality that is called DevPay for online billing and account management service. Suppose somebody need for billing services, right? You want to add billing services or management services into his company, right? So it can subscribe Amazon DevPay. So everything will be there in the AWS. So if you subscribe AWS, you can use this type of services. So next one is your Microsoft Windows Azure. It was also launched in the year of 2008. So as you can see, the similar types of configuration is there in the bottom. Always the hardware layer is there in the bottom. Okay, and Windows Azure provided the computational services, storage services, and the development framework also. So you can do also platform as a service by the help of Windows Azure, right? So various service platforms are there, like live services, 24/7, anytime you can use the services. If you want to use a programmable framework, you can use .NET services. If you want to access something in the database, you can use SQL services. If you want to use Microsoft PowerPoint kind of thing, so you can use SharePoint services. Dynamic CRM services, various services are provided based upon the user applications and user requirement. So there are three major components platforms are there, right? One is Windows Azure offers cloud platform built on the Windows operating system. Okay, you have to install Windows operating system. Based upon the Microsoft virtualization technology, it can provide any of the services asked by the user. It may be Windows Live, Office Live, or Expense Online, or SharePoint Online, or Dynamic CRM Online. So these are the services provided. So how they are providing? They are providing by the help of, by creating various virtual machines. So Azure also provided various services. One is your live services. These live services are used to apply the data across multiple virtual machines. So you can visit these Microsoft Live applications. Also, you can use the free version. You can use the .NET services for application development, as I told you. SQL services is for your database kind of thing. SharePoint to develop your business applications. Dynamic CRM service for financing, marketing, or sales and promotions, right? So if you want to do marketing, supply chain management, or customer relationship management, you can go for dynamic CRM services provided by Microsoft Azure. Okay. So now let us stop here and let me launch the poll. So please answer this question. You have 20 seconds only. DDoS stands for DES. 15 minutes left, 15 seconds left, 11 seconds, 6 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. What is the correct answer? Distributed denials of service, right? And I'm launching another poll. Please answer this question. OVF stands for DES. OVF is used for the virtualization technology we are using. OVF stands for what? Seven seconds, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. The correct answer is open virtualization format, the first one, right? Okay, we'll stop here. In the next class, we'll continue from the next topic related to the cloud computing, grid and cloud computing.